Okay, so let's kind of take all of this stuff together and see if we can conceptually understand what's happening at these types of things. So sketch the graph of a function that has the following characteristics. The limit as x approaches 2 of f of x is negative infinity. The limit as x approaches infinity of f of x is infinity. The limit as x approaches negative infinity is 0. The limit as x approaches 0 from the right is infinity, and the limit as x approaches 0 from the left is negative infinity. Okay, so let's think about what these things mean. So here, these things mean that we're going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. That's what those mean. Whenever you have the limit as x is approaching a value goes to infinity or negative infinity, there's going to be a vertical asymptote there. So let's draw that in. There's my vertical asymptote. Okay, now let's look at some other things. So we're going to also have a vertical asymptote, it looks like right here, at x equals 2. Okay. That going to infinity, this going to infinity just means as your x values are getting really big, your y values are getting really big. So we know that over here, it's going to end up going up like that, because as our x's are getting larger, our y's are getting larger. Here is where we have a horizontal asymptote. So we're going to have a horizontal asymptote, because as your x is approaching negative infinity or positive infinity is what gives you these horizontal asymptotes if they approach an actual number. So that is going to happen at y equals 0. So let's draw that in. All right, so now I've got all my pieces. So let's do this piece over here. I know it's going to end going up, and then let's see what happens here. So that this horizontal asymptote only was for x values that were approaching negative infinity. So we're not going to worry about this side. All right, so this has to, at this 2, x equals 2, let's see what's happening. So at x equals 2, it's approaching negative infinity from both the left and the right-hand side. All right, and let's see what happens after this. So on the right-hand side, as x is approaching 0, we're approaching positive infinity. And then on the left-hand side, as x is approaching 0, we're approaching negative infinity. And then again over here, I've got that horizontal asymptote as x is bigger, bigger, this function is getting closer to 0. So that's just a sketch of a function that has these following characteristics. So again, we can go back and check. All right, when x was approaching 2, I should be approaching negative infinity from either side. Sweet, I've got that down. As x is approaching infinity, so as x's are getting bigger, your function should continue to get bigger. Sweet, I've got that. X is approaching negative infinity, your function should be approaching 0. And then as x approaches 0 from the right, I should be going towards positive infinity, and 0 from the left towards negative. Let's do another example. So sketch the graph of a function that has the following characteristics. F of 0 equals 3. So that means I have a point when x is 0, y is 3. All right, so here, this tells us as I'm approaching 0 from the right-hand side, so as I'm approaching it from this side, your function is approaching 2. And again, we're not going to have a solid circle there because that's not what happens at the function at 0, but it's what's happening as we're approaching 0. Over here, as we're approaching 0 from numbers that are less than it, we're approaching 4. I have no idea if these are going to be up or down, but I'm just letting myself know that. I'm just going to draw those circles there so I know that's where each side should go. Okay, we have a horizontal asymptote here because as x is approaching infinity, so we're looking all the way down here, your function is approaching 3. So we're going to have a horizontal asymptote, but it's going to be on this side. As x is approaching infinity, we're going to have that horizontal asymptote at 3. So this is a horizontal asymptote at y equals 3. I'm going to sketch down to these two. So as x is approaching 4 from the left, we go to positive infinity, and 4 from the right, we go towards from the right, we go towards positive infinity, from the left towards negative infinity. This means we're going to have a vertical asymptote here at x equals 4. So I'm going to draw that in. Okay. So let's kind of go with what we know. So I know over here that as my x values are getting larger, that we're approaching 3. So I know it's going to be approaching that. And then let's see what happens if I'm going to be going up at this vertical asymptote or down. So at x equals 3, if we're looking at, sorry, at x equals, this should have been x equals 4. Apologize for that guy. All right. So at x equals 4, if we're looking at what happens when we're approaching it from the right, it's going towards positive infinity. All right, now if I look at what's happening here, we've got as x is approaching, so we know this goes to here, so as x is approaching 4 from the left-hand side, it needs to be going towards negative infinity. And we know we have to go to here because the function is approaching 2 from the right as you're approaching 0. Okay, this other side said, we know this piece of it, but I need to figure out, am I going up? Am I going down? What am I doing? So that's where this part comes into play. So this said, as your x values are approaching negative infinity, your function is approaching negative infinity. So that means this is going to go down in that direction.